I wonder if the politics of the decision not to include any illustrations besides the cover image of the acrobats Darlie Smith, Joel Wadek, and Jimmy Kerrigan performing a stunt atop a New York City skyscraper with the Empire State Building rhyming in the background the upward reach of their muscled bodies. The unabashed and bravura display of the phallicized body, rivaling the exclamation point of the built tower, works against the reader's careful positioning to counter the visual stereotype of camp as white, gay male bodily excess that's here still staked, despite all the camp jokes on phallicized masculinity, to an aesthetics, albeit largely inflated, of grandiose erection. And yet the afterlives of this review of the camp reader and the recycling of the reader itself attest to camp as a stage set and stage setting flexible architectural resource for propping and even sustaining the viability of other possibilities within its scene of an at once spectacular appearance and absence. Sculptor Anna Campbell's reflection beam took my review not to replace one cover image with another, but to poach the mirror prism of camp as a tool for materially articulating another edifice at the place where fascination meets frustration, and we might call this intersection desire. Frustration and even outrage at the degree to which the scale for what may even register as queer, or camp for that matter, is calibrated to a certain kind of muscled white gay masculinity as its standard unit of measure, which renders other forms and incarnations of potent gender and sex play in the zone of the illegible and incalculable. And yet perversely, fascinated by the way in which the standard unit of architectural construction, the I-beam, with its cross-section flanges that help resist buckling and bending, could be appropriated to make a pedestal support that bends in another way. Faced with mirrors that don't completely cover the wood beams and thus refuse seamless illusionism, the anti-foundational quasi-support of the pedestal, tower becomes the prop, not just for an ever-growing accumulation of discount camp readers, but especially by its use of the mirrors to bisect and double the image, pushing its acrobatic assemblage of bodies toward a monstrous conjoining. The mirror of misrecognition and splitting images and imagos becomes not merely the putting into the scene of, in Campbell's phrasing, some post-disco flamboyance, but a refractor by which we're ushered into the scene of shifting ephemeral foundations, as both propped and part of the props. Critically, with wit and wonder that don't just whittle away at what gets to be the ground or the origin of the genealogy, but rests that place to make space for our reflections in all their ambivalence. So I was asked to give you a question, because I understand that you do some writing in response to each of these presentations. So I'm never able to write a short question, so this one's its own essay, I suppose. And I phrased it in terms of a device that I use in the classroom all the time, but I also use it, well, persistently in my own work. I think interesting projects, the projects that really fascinate, push, and pull you, are ones that frankly have at their heart what I call burning questions. Those are the questions that keep you up at night. Those are the questions not just like, does he or she love me? Do they want me? You know, will I survive? Will I get what I want? You know, pulling petals off of daisies. But the kind of questions that, you know, singe your skin, can't let you go, frankly. The questions that, in a sense, have you. So my burning question writing prompt is one I ask myself. And it's one to which I don't think there's a ready answer, which is what makes it, I think, worth asking and worth contemplating and trying to wrestle with. So if theory isn't a patina of fancy words to lacquer over your already cooked practice, or shine up an artist statement with the glimmer of the latest fancy pants polysyllables, I can't even say it right, so fancy pants polysyllables. If theory informed or theory-driven practice isn't about finding a form for pre-established, received, and unaltered propositional content, how might reimagining the relation of theory and practice, not as a binary opposition, but as a dynamic fold. That is, if we think about the ways in which a piece of paper, right, literally an envelope, folds in and yet also unfolds, and the way in which folding up and unfolding brings out other possibilities. If we think about the ways in which a fan pulls out and pulls in, complicate our sense of what is inside and outside. Outside contains, inside opens, and this is taken for those of you who read theory from Gilles Deleuze, a wonderful book called The Fold on Leibniz, but also in a short book that's never read enough, and that is Gilles Deleuze's take on Michel Foucault. So those of you who want some reading, that's where The Fold is taken from. So if we were to reconceive the relation of theory and practice as a dynamic fold, how might that change how you approach your practice? Or in other words, how might you approach your work as a mode or practice of theorizing in grappling with whatever material or medium, including your own body, you may work with, or voice? And I ask this question, right, because it's a live question for me, in the sense of one without an easy answer, which is ultimately what makes it one that I think is actually worth posing. And if this question stumps you, write your frustration, or describe your impasse, which is itself, I think, a way of approaching the problem. Okay, so I guess we can do lights up, maybe, so I can see you all differently. You're already illuminated with this kind of lovely halo on your hair, but it's kind of nice to see the whole thing. Questions, reactions, thoughts? Maybe I'll sit down too. Yeah.
Where were your where are your installations at that you were showing us again? Were those the installation that you were working on?
So the first, the entomographies, the particular installation shots are in the Charles Ollis Museum in Milwaukee. It was part of a show on actually new media, and I said a little bit about anachronism, and my interest in that installation was about thinking about the ways in which intimacy has changed, or our transaction of intimacy has changed, if at all, if it has, with the introduction of the concretion, right, of taking, making, but also being able to transmit a photo through a little handheld phone device. I interestingly was not, in any way the only artist in that show who was confronting new media by problematizing the extent to which it's new at all. And so the little boxes that you saw on the table have side by side an original Polaroid and an iPod Touch device with a scrolling series of digital images, all reformatted using the polarizing apps. I don't know if you've seen Shake It and Polarock, and use the way in which the unusual Polaroid border has become in the digital moment the sign for photographness, even when what it frames isn't the Polaroid at all. It's sort of a way of signaling that it's a photograph when the photograph and what it is so diffuse. And then the other installation that you saw, the Shane's Glove installation, that was at the Madison Museum of Contemporary Art as part of the triennial exhibition. Other questions? Yes, hi.
I'm very impressed by your work. I once took your course for the visualization and theorizing.
I remember, yes. closer to you, so you don't have a microphone, so I can hear you. Hi.
According to Baudrillard, the photographic things, and once the photograph is very profound. It does not stop the time. Rather, it will give you the trace, of so those kind of materiality is evaporate, and give you the space of imagination called it's Lamet's telling time. You remember that?
Yes.
And then, so everything is get, unfolding, refolding, and those kind of procedure, because the genealogy of the nearness, it is like equivalent as in mathematics a differentiation equation, and some dynamical mechanism appears, and then those kind of art is called art of disappearance, and those kind of gender demarcations all evaporate. So this kind of dynamic things, I think in your work you are always consistent, and those kind of clear questions I think is like a visual dynamical question. In the method of human is more dynamical, not just like sterilized as just like this decided that the pattern or something. So the search itself is a practice of theorizing, and will constantly discover some meaning in the intimate, the space. So those kind of practice. This is the first time I saw your archive. Was very impressed, and I strengthened my belief. I think this is those kind of age, cutting edge. This is I think because of the queer world, they have those kind of distillerized, those kind of sharpening their insight, and give the visual space to display, and finally subvert the established ground. So we call it the groundless ground. This kind of the human prejudice, and I just like my question is is this the line, you starting practice it in which year? 70s, 80s?
When did I start practicing?
Yeah.
1991.
1991.
Yeah.
1991. Yeah. You curve along this line, and then you keep practicing. Did you see those different stages? You getting through. And what is your newest discovery in this kind of practice?
Well, I showed you all a very small sample in that I wanted to make this, I understood that instead of just a kind of tour through, here's a career, that these were talks that might best be done as an argument about a particular series of questions. And so I pulled those projects that use the SX70 Polaroid, and that think about the complex interrelationship and slippage between public and private, but also think feel with the complex temporality of the image. So the Polaroid, right, famous for being instant. Photography generally discussed in terms of capturing time, freezing time, but also so often as with its effect of vivid effect of the index, right, the sign that would seem to be made by its object. And this is a work right in Roland Barthes so famously argues that what pierces us is, in the other direction, is the way in which that photographic sign gives us a sense of that has been, right? So it gives us